and author specializing in strategy, marketing, storytelling, and sustainability. He has shaped corporate strategy and educational programs to maximize the benefits of disruptive technologies. He's also carried out extensive research for green technologies in urban destinations across Asia. His work has also been featured far and wide, everywhere from Forbes to the UN to Harvard Business Review and beyond. We also have on this webinar Giuseppe Scandariato. He's a marketer of over 12 years of experience in communications and branding in the fashion industry, and specifically in sustainable pioneers. So, and he's also a senior researcher on this particular topic. So without further ado, let's begin. Nicola, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Naomi, and thank you very much, all of you, for being here today. And thanks, of course, ECONYL, for hosting us on this fabulous topic. My name is Nicola Andreva, and I will be your speaker for today, together with my colleague Giuseppe, who's going to give some further colors and cases. Today's theme is on everybody's mouth, right? Is how can we embrace circular business models to revolutionize design, right? So this is broader than fashion, broader than a particular industry. It's something that it's about how can we, in our lives as private citizens, businessmen, marketeers, entrepreneurs, do something to both keep our planet a great place to live in and hopefully live it in a better shape. And also us as entrepreneurs or sort of corporate people, do something good for our firms, right? So, but first of all, let's start with another trend topic, AI, right? So everybody is now doing all kinds of strange things with artificial intelligence. And we asked an AI, I will not tell you which program, but you can easily imagine that, to generate images of what would be the consequences of global warming if the limit of 1.5 degrees was exceeded. And guess what we found? Pretty realistic, eh? Well, let me tell you the truth. It was a lie. Well, it was a lie that we asked an AI because, unfortunately, these images are real, right? The one on the top left is Bangladesh in 2021, top right in the US about 6 years ago, and then you have Australia and then the Horn of Africa. So that's happening. Droughts, heavy rains, storms, hurricanes are getting more and more frequent and more impactful for our planet, right? And guess who's responsible? Us as human beings, humanity, industry. And some of the culprits specifically are the fashion and design industries. It's being calculated by the Ellen MacArthur Foundation that if the fashion industry were to continue its current trajectory, it could consume 1/4 of the carbon budgets associated with a 2 degrees pathway by 2050, which would make basically irreparable damage to our planet. And I mean, what's wrong here? First of all, let's look at the supply chain and the value chain, you could say, of linear business models. What happens here? That value is created by owning the process and selling the goods. So there are CO2 emissions when you take, make, use, and dispose from raw materials to the final products, right? And this is what we've always been done from the first industrial revolution onwards, right? We're used to this thing, right? We get the raw materials, we take them to one place, we process them, make some products, etc., and then we use them, we sell to the customers, and then the customer throws them away, and that's it, right? So unfortunately, this is not how it should go, or there are better ways for us to do that, right? But first of all, let's see why is this so problematic. First of all, let's look at it by stages. The production of a cotton t-shirt requires 2,700 liters of water. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? It's like for one t-shirt, it's the same amount of water that one person needs in 2.5 years of life, right? And let's look at the making. The sector by itself used almost 80 billion cubic meters of water. Then let's talk about the use. What's really worrying is that we have doubled the units per year of sales, and of course, we use them much less. It has decreased by 40%. Of course, we buy more and we use less what we have, and this totally intuitive, but also so impactful in a bad way for our planet. And then finally, in terms of disposing it, right? We know that only 1% of the material used to produce clothing is now recycled into new clothing. And this is how bad it is, right? So today we have 92 million tons of fabric, which ends up in landfills or it's burnt, right? It's as if a garbage truck full of clothes was dumped every second somewhere in the world. And in the next 7 years, we would get to 134 million tons, right? So the numbers you can easily see by how much it is growing, right? And to give you an idea of what it looks like, here's an image of Ghana, what's happening in Ghana, where basically fast fashion sends so many clothes each day, right? This is what happens. They get there, some of them are sold, some of them are not sold, and they're just thrown away. And that's how it looks like. That's the source is BBC Africa, right? So there are hills, even mountains of used clothing. I mean, we don't realize when we throw away that sort of wore out t-shirt, that t-shirt that doesn't fit us anymore, can you believe it? That almost 40% of the clothing, it's sort of thrown here in a landfill. And then of course, they're left on beach as well and washed from landfills into the sea. And that's where you get a bad planet. That's where you get death for so many animals, right? Now, it's not the fashion industry by itself. It's also other industries such as design and construction, right? So in terms of raw materials, the construction industry is responsible for over 30% of the extraction of natural resources. And in terms of making, the built environment, the building themselves contribute to 40% of carbon emissions worldwide, right? Just to give you some data here, right? And then you can easily see how also in terms of usages, the carbon impact and disposal, I mean, the waste generation has increased of 342% in less than 30 years. So there's really a big problem here. We have 569 million tons of construction waste in a 1 year, and then 12.2 million tons of furniture wasted generated by Americans alone, right? And now we're talking about just furniture waste. So we need a paradigm shift. We need to go from this linear model, which is, I mean, so ingrained in our business model, but so bad for our planet, to a more sustainable one. And that's where the circular economy concept, the circular economy framework and model kicks in, right? The beauty of it is that not only is good for the planet, it's also good for our bottom line, right? There is a way for making the circular economy a profitable business model and give our planet a sustainable future in the industry, right? We know that it could generate over 700 billion by 2030 and make up to 1/4 almost of the global fashion market, right? And we know that resale, rental, repair, and remake services are already worth over $70 billion, and that's great. We're going to see who's doing what in these spaces too. And we know that if we reach that thing we saw before, we would lower our CO2 emissions by 16%. So you see the size of the prize in terms of money, but especially in terms of benefits for the environment, it's quite substantial. So, and again, also in the built environment, so looking also at the other industries we saw before, we see that it's growing and it can create so many new jobs. It could give an increase in productivity in the industry. I mean, there's good news all around. To do that, we need to go from the linear economy to the circular economy. Many people are talking about recycling, but recycling is basically you take something, you make something, you recycle, and then you remake it, and then use it again, and then you waste it, right? So recycling economy, yeah, it's fine, but it's what really is a game changer is the circular economy that creates minimal waste. Because even when you recycle things, you can recycle things once, maybe twice, but then in the end, you still produce waste. The goal here is to keep using things, recycling, returning, repairing, reusing them, and having minimal waste. So whenever we want to be sustainable, we need to be careful that recycling and circular economy are not the same thing, are quite different. And circular economy is much better for our planet, right? And to do that, to the shift, we need to make 3 product level changes in terms of physical durability. So we need to select durable materials and construction products in order for them to sort of last more, right? And that's in the product design and sourcing. But then there's something also about emotional durability, right? How can you increase and maintain a product's relevance and desirability to its users, right? So think about Levi's, right? I mean, a Levi's pair of jeans, it never gets old somehow, right? So it's a matter of emotional durability. It's not something that you do it for a season or even like for 3 weeks and then that's it. Then finally, there is also supply chain sustainability, and it's about the impact that our supply chain it makes on human rights, environmental progress, and of course, corruption policies, right? And this is also something that we should keep in our mind because sustainability is not something only related to the environment, but also related to our society at large, right? And it's not only about using the clothes in a different way, it's throughout all the value chain, from design to production, all the way to the consumer. So all the stakeholders need to be involved. But involved in what? You may ask, right? 4 models: resale, rental, repair, and remake. Now, let's look at these things one by one, right? So the next, I would say, 30 minutes of this presentation are about us explaining one of these 4 accounts, and then giving you some example of who is doing what, who are the key players, and what the results are they achieving, how are they doing it in these 4 key paradigms of the circular economy. The first one is resale, right? Resale is about peer-to-peer sale of second-hand items or use of third-party marketplaces for e-commerce and take-back initiatives, right? And where are we now? The clothing resale, it's estimated, because it's hard to get clear data here, in about $25 to $30 billion per year and widely adopted across the world. And if we purchase a pre-owned item, on average, we save 1 kilo of waste, over 3,000 liters of water, and 22 kilos of CO2. Right? And there are platforms like Vinted or Real holding a 25 to 30% of market share and driving the growth, right? So here the growth is driven by giants, right? McKinsey and Company estimates an increase of this sector by 10 to 15% per year in the next decade. In the future, we need to invest in innovative models and, of course, digital technology. And we'll see later what that means, if you wish. And then multi-brand resellers, what are they doing? A retrofitting resale, because they say, yeah, it's true that we are selling second-hand items, but we want to give you a sort of first-hand sales experience. And that's the beauty of it, also in terms of behavioral economics for our customers. Now, Giuseppe, why don't you describe us what are a couple of players doing in this space? Are you with us?
Sure, yes. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Nicola. So for the first one, for those who don't know Farfetch, they are a multi-brand luxury online platform that sells all around the world. And what they've done is they've created a part of, it's essentially a platform on their website. They call it Farfetch Refresh Thrift Plus. So Thrift Plus is where you can give them or send them any of your clothing that you're no longer using. You do have to follow their guidelines on the proper condition and which brands they actually accept. Once they receive all the clothing, what they then do is then they resell it on their platform. So what they do is they give it a label. It's a pre-owned label. But then what they do is they sell it all around the world using the same marketing strategies that they already use for their brand new collections. Essentially, I also want to just address, I saw a question come in regarding the actual consumers. So in this case, a lot has to do what Nicola even said before about the emotional durability. So here, a lot has to go into marketing and communications for the brand. It can either be for the brand, for your company, for your platform, or for the actual products themselves, where you're essentially selling back the emotional part to the customer. So having them understand whether it be an actual product, so the life of the product, why it could be important, the the whole life cycle of the product, or even just basically on the brand, as we used as an example with Levi's. So essentially what they do is then after that, after you've sent them your clothing and they've sold them, they then divide up the revenue that they receive from the sales into two. You get to choose which charity you would like half of that to go to. The other half becomes Farfetch credits. So you can then use these credits to then repurchase on their platform. And they also have Farfetch Second Life, which is a resale platform for their designer handbags. So essentially, they do a bit of both between charity, but then also with the Farfetch credits. So it's also an extra incentive for you to relieve what you're not using. As we saw before, about 40% of clothing is used much less. So it's a way for you to freshen up even your wardrobe, which is where they got their name from. So that's part of the marketing ploy. They've also seen that 52% of Farfetch customers have bought or sold secondhand items in the 12 months to September 2020. So we will see also later in the presentation that there is high demand from the consumers to take part in this economy. And then the number of bags sold through Farfetch Second Life increased by 348% every year from 2019 to 2020. So we do see that there is a huge demand from the customer base.
All right, thank you, Giuseppe. And do you want to give us one more example? LVMH. It's hard not to know LVMH.
Of course, yeah. So what they've developed is something that, especially in supply chains, a lot of brands are really trying to grapple and understand how to best go about this. So what they've done here, so they are the owner of Louis Vuitton and many other fashion brands. They developed a blockchain consortium where they secured consensus technology. So essentially they are giving each product a digital certificate, almost like a birth certificate. So you can almost see its travel around the world, all the material inside of the product, and where it eventually ends up, so that you can then also use that information to then resell it again if you no longer want to use it. And so the digital ID guarantees the authenticity of the product. So they also want to make sure that you as the consumer know that you're not purchasing, fake or counterfeit items, which are especially in the market. And it's also safer and easier for someone to then resell. So it's between the consumer and a platform like LVMH or other platforms who are reselling, and it expands the lifetime value of the product. So it's something extra to make sure that all parties involved are getting the proper products, real products, and understand what's in it. To also go back to physical durability, we also need to know what's in the product, so we know also how to take it apart for another model, which we will see later.
Fantastic. And one more. I want to do IKEA, right? So we're cherry picking cases. So IKEA, furniture giant, everybody knows about it, has a buyback program where customers can sell back their gently used furniture in exchange for store credits, right? And then what does IKEA do? Is that the furniture is then resold as is or refurbished and sold at a discount, right? And we know that in 2020, they had collected, imagine that, 47,000 tons of used furniture through the take-back program. Then they can easily disassemble products for recycling or repair. So also in terms of design, having this in mind that they not only need to be assembled, but also disassembled, right? It makes the whole process way more sustainable from the beginning, but you need to think about in advance in terms of design, right? What do we know? IKEA is massively profitable, right? And in the fiscal year 2022, it has reduced its climate footprint of its value chain by 12% compared to the baseline of 2016, right? So we are getting somewhere with that, right? And then last but not least, Giuseppe, do you want to give us an example from the inside?
Sure. So the Inside is a custom furniture brand that created a program called the Inside Circle. So this is where customers can sell back their used furniture for store credit. The furniture is then refurbished and sold at a discount. So every single item they make is made on demand. So what that means is they're not making extra products that eventually may not be sold. And then what they also use is water-free digital printing. So the company grew, or rather this part of the program of the company grew by nearly 600% in the past 2 years. Especially making sure that they're not wasting resources by making every item on demand, also helped with their bottom line. Also, Havenly, one of the biggest online services of interior design, acquired the Inside, and a 3D technology company to revolutionize the market. So essentially, Havenly, having bought them and also this other 3D company, they're still trying to develop and innovate ways that they can sell with this business model.
Fantastic. Moving on. So much for resale. Let's go to rental. What is rental? As the name suggests, that's the easiest to get. Rental platforms, a rental paradigm, a rental model allows for one-off peer-to-peer rentals, as well as large-scale rental and subscription models, which are very interesting, by multi-brand platforms or individual brands. So let's look at some of those. But first, let's look at where we are now. Right? You can have access to a variety of clothes while decreasing demand for new clothing production. That's genius. It's basically replacing ownership with access, right? The value proposition is quite compelling when you take customer needs into consideration, right? It's about short-term use. It's about being practical and follow fast-evolving preferences. And then new subscription models are quickly emerging within the industry. This whole thing is valued at 2.28 billion this year, and it's expected to go more than double by 2033 in the next 10 years, right? And the great thing is that compared to a traditional model, we could lower by 24% our water consumption and by 6% reduce in energy consumption, right? And the availability of rented clothes is growing thanks to e-commerce and offline channels. Off we go to the concrete worlds. Buy Rotation. What is Buy Rotation? It's a peer-to-peer fashion rental platform that basically pushes users to rent what they need and lend what they don't at a fraction of their retail price, right? Everybody can set their price of each item per day together with the rental period, right? You can have my bag for like 7 days or a month, etc., etc. And it's focused on building a community of people that are both style aware and environmentally aware. So this sense of community keeps people together, both for the planet and for the look, right? Which is great. It's the revolution is when you do something good for the planet, which is also good for yourself. It could be about creating profits or even just looking good and feeling good with yourself, right? The results are that consumers can gain access to designer clothes at affordable prices, right? So you basically include in the market a number of people that will be priced out. People can monetize their own clothes, and that's great because it creates them another source of revenues. And the user base is growing by over 350%, right? So it's really one of the hottest thing in the market right now. Giuseppe, do you want to take us to Double Z Drinks or ZZ Drinks?
Sure. So this brand was founded as a response to the trend of unethical and unsustainable furniture in the market today, also known as fast furniture. So the company is a certified B Corp that reduces the number of new pieces of furniture in circulation by reducing antique furniture as the most sustainable option. 80% of their designers use materials that can be recycled, and 60% use biodegradable materials. Sorry, they have offset 100% of their CO2, and that was created from several options that they have in the company. But they have, and we actually linked here, carbonfund.org and 1% for the planet. Physical transport from suppliers to customers has a net positive environmental impact. So here they make sure that they're only sending to their final customers, and they use other practices that are more eco-friendly, especially using electronic vehicles and so forth. And they reduce the number of new pieces of furniture. They've also done something similar where they are producing on demand, so not creating all these products that then sit there idly in the shops.
Fantastic. One more key pro, it's a furniture rental services. This is one of my favorite for expats that are working abroad, right? And housing corporation, real estate agents, home staging students, basically anyone who does not have to be in a place forever, right? So, and then it's perhaps they already know when they're moving out, perhaps not, and that's okay because the flexible period, the rental period, it's simple, and they work with ready-made packages, and you choose it, you place in a shopping cart, and then it gets sent off. That's a very innovative approach in the Netherlands that are trying to enter as a market segment of expats and nomads, and this is where you can see that thinking from the customer perspective makes a huge difference. They don't just rent furniture. They say, okay, what do these people want? They want an easy life when they move into a place. So they do not want to think about every single piece of furniture and then go ahead and buy it. They just want packages, and they're given packages, right? So it's great. It's good for the environment. It's cheaper because it's cheaper in terms of money because it's less than buying something. It's also cheaper in terms of time because they make the choices for you, and then you don't even have to buy it and then sell it again. And it's also way more comfortable. And that's why some of these things are working. Then there is moving from the Netherlands to Italy. There is Sisterly, a peer-to-peer rental platform, and they want to educate and incentivize users to make their luxury bags available, right? The great thing about this platform is that they do not buy stock, right? It's a peer-to-peer platform, so there's a positive impact because there are less items in circulation. It's only bags going from one person to another one, and they use 100% compostable packages. And the result is that even in this case, users started more and more active on the platform, advising each other and exchanging bags, right? Advising each other on how to do it, how to wear them, etc., avoiding waste. And think about if you rent instead of buying a luxury bags, $2,000 luxury bags, you would save 29 trees in terms of environmental impact, or the CO2 that you produce by driving your car for almost 3,000 kilometers. Giuseppe, one more for you, and then we'll shift to our third framework.
Sure. So Mud Jeans, they offer a leasing and a rental service for their jeans. It allows someone to then use them and then send them back whenever they no longer want it. So in addition to renting, they use organic and recycled materials in the denim production. So also to go back to the whole supply chain, it also starts from the very beginning with the materials. They're also very transparent. So they are transparent about their supply chain and their environmental impact, which I think is so important as well for a brand to make sure that they're transparent on every step of their production, all the way to the eventual delivery of the product. What it has done is it increased customer loyalty and resource efficiency, recycling almost 95% of the water used. So they're also constantly showing back to their customer what the value chain is, and keeping them involved made the customer almost feel part of the project. So that's also one of the reasons why it actually increased customer loyalty.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Now, circular economy paradigm number 3, repair, right? It involves returning faulty or broken products or even just components to a usable state. Who's doing what? How does it work? I'm going to skip the where are we now part. I'm going to just park it here. It's quite intuitive and move straight to our cases, right? So the most famous of it is Patagonia. Don't buy this jacket. Patagonia is, of course, we know it, an American clothing company founded in 1973 that markets and sells outdoor clothing. It has a great company culture. They're very, very, very committed to make the world a better place. And what do? they have something called ironclad guarantee. So clients can return items to their stores and then they repair them or replace them for them or basically refund them. And they offer in-store repairs and host even regular do-it-yourself repair events at retail stores. So not only they're doing it themselves, they're also teaching customers how to do it. Every year, they repair about 50,000 pieces that would be otherwise thrown away. And they keep clothes in play as long as possible. And this helps, of course, to cut down on consumption and get more use out of items that customers would have it. Anyhow, Loey, Giuseppe, one for you.
Sure. So Loey is a women's wear brand offering 3 repairs for life on their garments. So again, what they want to do is have the customer involved as much as possible, having them almost feel part of the project. So it's a free service to stimulate customers to embrace this circular philosophy. It shapes the brand culture, bringing sustainability to the core of the offer. So again, it's always about giving that emotional aspect of each product. And they also have monthly workshops on how to repair garments at home. What it has done is actually a 100% increase in the number of garments sent to their service. So that means that every single person who is purchasing one of their products is then involved again in keeping that same product going. 90% of the collection is made of raw materials such as organic cotton and upcycled materials. So again, even knowing that all the materials in the product is a sustainable product, we will see this later that it's something that the customer is demanding, and also we allow them to be part of that process.
Fantastic. So one participant wants to see this introduction chart one more time, right? Let me go through it. So repair is an essential aspect of the circular economy. Basically, you extend the life of products and materials. You get consumers involved because most of the times often is DIY, do it yourself, and you basically lead people to want to buy more sustainable products. You have so many brands that are joining in the process, and we're going to see one more later on. And then you develop a stronger attachment to the clothes, right? And then there's brand loyalty because you wear them for longer. Even the fact that you've repaired it, it gives that sort of IT effect for that. If you basically contribute to the making, designing, or even repair, you could think of the product, you feel more affectionate to it. And also there are opportunities with local business and startups that could emerge in local markets as repair shops. Moving on. Would you have believed it? But of course, Hermes is also doing it. Hermes needs no introduction. What are they doing? They are repairing around 100,000 pieces per year in their workshop to preserve the stability of the objects. And basically, they're getting a 60% reduction in the intensity of the water consumption over 10 years. Of course, this excludes farms. And then a 17% reduction in the intensity of water for the industrial use. That we're talking about the industrial use for 2021 alone, right? In comparison. And that's great. Even in this case, you see even a major luxury brand saying it's okay if things break. We're going to be there repairing for you, with you. Don't worry about it. A beautiful object can show some scar, and that's totally okay. You don't have to throw it away immediately. Moving very quickly, Arend, Giuseppe, one for you.
Sure. So it's a Dutch company. They are specialized in sustainable office furniture and workspace solutions. They offer services such as refurbishment, remanufacturing, and recycling. So open the doors to their main manufacturing site is Sint Oude de Rood, sorry for the pronunciation, to demonstrate how sustainability looks in practice. So very transparent again. Furniture as a service, which revitalizes and maintains. It's now present in more than 25 countries. And they also use the philosophy very similar to Patagonia, less is more.
Fantastic. And last but not least, in our poker of circular economy is Remake, right? Remake is about creating new products from existing ones, and you disassemble them, you re-dye them, and you repurpose them. right? It's about taking something old or broken or both, and then making something new. You repurpose things, right? Where are we now? So what's the value? You need designers creating products that can be easily disassembled. We saw it before with IKEA, right? Because their component needs to be easily and even quickly be reused in a sort of closed loop fashion, which is the key difference, right? This sort of eternal circular economy cycle. And brands should incentivize customers to return products at the end of their life to be redesigned. And again, it leads to customers want to buy more sustainable products if we do the marketing right. Where are we now? More companies like Philips could make over 10% of the revenue from circular proposition, including remake. So the future is brighter. There's a new culture of customer engagement where basically customers bring their clothes to be disassembled and then repurposed and then remade. But this requires a modification of the supply chain to recollect end-of-life products and sort of repurpose them. So who's doing what? Napapiri, Italian premium clothing brand, market apparel, also as well as fashion accessory, footwear, and bags. And they have cradle to cradle certified gold garments products are made to be made again, right? And the reason why they are cool is that because they have a full range of recyclable. Their outerwear is made with 100% with ECONYL nylon, which you may know already. It's an eco-friendly and circular material created by transforming waste into infinitely regenerable nylon. And that's key. It's not recycled once, it's infinitely regenerable nylon. And that's the key difference because it is minimizes waste, right? So thanks to this, Napapiri Circular Series has achieved gold level certification. And then their circular products can be returned after 2 years, ready to be recycled into new products, right? Giuseppe, why don't you talk us through Loop2Works?
Yeah, Loop2Works, they upcycle and divert materials from waste streams. So what it does is keeps as much of the material in the loop. So they, as I said, repurpose used and excess materials into new products, keeping the materials in use and avoiding landfills. It creates durable products with a lifelong guarantee and offer customization and also other services. So essentially, the biggest difference here that I would like to maybe point out most is the difference between recycling and upcycling. So when you recycle something, you're essentially using all that was there before. You, let's say, destroy it, break it down completely to then remake that same product. Upcycling instead is using the materials from a product that has reached its end of life to create something new. So let's say, for example, a shirt doesn't have to become, then again, become another shirt. It can become a dress, it become, a skirt, whatever it is. So that's also what they do. By doing this, they've conserved over 77 million gallons of water, and they reduce waste, tackling over 27,000 kilos of pre-consumer textiles. So they've repurposed for the Delta Airlines uniforms and also the seat leathers into bags and travel accessories.
Fantastic. Beyond retro, I'll take this. It's vintage retailing based in the UK, contribute to circular economy, where they basically have a range of sustainably sourced products. They remake products from selected used items. Basically, they say they rehome items, 90 millions last year. They launched an exchange program where they can bring their pre-loved items in store for basically for a second life to be remade. Now, you see how words matter. They talk about rehoming items, pre-loved items instead of pre-used, right? That's great because how we describe something makes a lot of difference on how it is perceived. And they've saved over 450 million kilos of pre-owned textiles from the landfills. They produce 100% upcycled garments. And for customer incentives, they basically have a dedicated team that develops theatrical displays in stores and they curate unique products. One last one, and then we're going to wrap up. Let's do super use, Giuseppe.
Sure. So this is an architectural firm that developed a system called Harvest Mapping, where they identify sources of waste materials and develop strategies for reusing them into their project. So they calls for searching, finding, and dismantling reusable building materials, or harvesting. It founded the platform Oogstcart in the Netherlands in 2012. So it's again I think the main point that we have to also make sure is well communicated is that the whole point of this is to not use or source new sources, so new resources into products to keep adding to the waste problem. So it's to keep items that are already in the market in a cyclical manner where no new resources are used. So that's also their main business platform. They've created created the interconnected marketplace for finding reusable materials, and their material driven approach and saving of energy. So not only are they getting the resources already out there, but then they're making sure that to remake those products is not using up a lot more to create emissions as well. So that's what their main value chain is essentially.
All right, wrapping it up because there are a few questions. Right. So first of all, where can you find brands using circular business models? There are many shops selling products from fashion brands that incorporate circular models in the business, and ECONYL eShop is one of them. Right. What's ECONYL? It's a regenerated nylon. There's a product that helps brands to close the loop, and basically, as we saw before, it's an upcycled nylon, a regenerated one. And upcycled meaning there's no quality loss in the recycling process, right? ECONYL nylon is a brand produced by Aquafil. It's a global leader in the synthetic fiber industry. And yes, it's infinitely recyclable and can unleash infinite possibilities for both makers, creators, and of course, consumers, right? And the QR code here that you can scan to visit the eShop. And why is this a good thing? The circular economy, yes, it's fantastic for the planet. And yes, there are so many young people and consumers across age spans saying that they want brands with a solid sustainability reputation, that want to keep clothes for longer, that more attention should be paid to reducing pollution. And well, half of consumers have repaid an item once rather than replace it. We would love for this number to go up. 40% have bought second-hand refurbished items. So there is a 60% of the market that in terms of potential, and 24% of consumers would pay more for sustainable packages. So across the supply chain, from production, from sourcing, all the way to the customer, there's a lot of potential to A, create new market spaces, and B, do something good for our planet. The environment needs it, consumers demand it, and brands can profit from it. And there's nothing wrong with this. This is not a sacrifice, the circular economy, not at all. It's a win-win-win situation for us all. Thank you very much. Thank you, Giuseppe, for being with me. Thank you, Aquafil, for giving us this space. And thank you, everyone, for being here. And feel free to ask us all the questions you may want now.
Yes, thank you very much, both Nicolo and Giuseppe, for that very interesting and very relevant conversation on this. Now, we do have a couple of questions coming in from our participants, and we'll go straight to it. So folks, if you want to go ahead and ask further questions, this is your time. Feel free to write in that chat box on the right bottom corner, and we'll try to answer as many as we can today. The first question we had earlier came from Daniel, and it had to do with the people component of the circular business model. And I know, Giuseppe, you briefly answered the question, and then there's a follow-up question for that, which is basically saying, how does commoditizing emotions, which are free and already owned by the consumer, how does this generate goodwill and inclusiveness?
That's a great one. Emotion commoditization. Do you think are we really doing that? A couple of things. First of all, I don't think that storytelling is about manipulation. It's about creating authenticity, because consumers are so good at spotting lies, greenwashing, etc., and that they're getting better and better at it. In terms of creating so many emotions, well, first of all, there's nothing wrong into inflating more dopamine, more oxytocin, and more endorphin into consumers' lives or minds, right? And even at the point, because that's what storytelling does, and even at that point where you would get used to a good story, then stories would get better and better. I mean, we've seen how cinema and literature are progressing in terms of sophistication of narratives, and I think the same will happen also for ads, publicity, and copyright. So I don't know. I don't see emotions being commoditized. I just see marketing getting truer and better at it.
Great.
Yeah, and if I can add just one quick thing to that, what I would say is essentially all brands, especially in the last 20 years, are definitely trying to hit an emotional component. But that's also because consumers want to know from the brand, why should I invest in you? They're no longer passive as they once were. So this part isn't really commoditizing. It's making sure, as Nicolo said, to get the message directly to the customer of the why. Why am I here? Why am I doing this? Why should I purchase this item? Why should I invest in this company? Essentially here, it's if you have a really well thought out marketing and communication strategy, you can explain better to the customer why this model is better than the original linear model, which is creating only waste. So it's another way to solve the problem and have the consumer understand why I should participate in this type of business. Especially a lot of people, especially in the luxury world, only see these type of products as things that have to be fresh, brand new, the hottest, newest thing around. Instead, we have to almost change that mindset. We have to explain and even show them that a continuation in that direction will only create more damages in the environment. Instead, if we relook at these, with these items with another view, essentially what we've been talking about before, that'd be the best way to really educate the final consumer so that he or she can understand why I should also participate in this new business model.
Thank you for that, both of you. We also have another question up on the screen here, and it says that so far, all of the narrative uses the 3 Ps as profit, profit, and profit, rather than planet, people, and then profit. So can we please clarify how this is considered circular?
Frankly, whenever companies are looking only at profit, there's nothing circular about that if you do not take into account planet and people first and foremost, right? Now, of course, the fact that circular economy brands are making money is actually a good thing because it means that they're also economically sustainable. But also that's an add-on, right? You need to do circular economy first and foremost because it's good for the planet and for the people. And if you do it right, then you also get profitable, and that's great.
Great.
Yeah, and I'll also add one quick thing to that as well. So essentially, in the old model, you would try to get the cheapest material at the lowest price possible to create as many products as possible to sell to as many people as possible. And so you constantly create this upward graph where you're selling products infinitely. But instead here, what we're trying to say is with this type of model, what you can do is reduce the volume in your sales, but make up for the profits in these other 4 circular models. So you're not just selling ever more products infinitely, but you're instead doing is limiting the amount of products you're going to sell using materials that may cost a little bit more, but are circular. So you're not sending any new materials and resources to landfills. So here, the whole question on the environment is here. You want to keep products in circulation for as long as possible over the span of the globe so they don't end up in a landfill. And you give it this emotional durability where people understand that it's not just any old item that I can discard. So you're also trying to explain to your consumers that you're going to invest in this product and hold it for as long as possible. So that's the biggest, I would say, one of the biggest differences in why here it's not just profit. You have to be profitable to have a company that's still going. But here it's more about less waste, less volume, more circular, and more business models that can also invest in that further.
Great, thank you. Daniel says thank you too for addressing these difficult questions. Thank you, Daniel, for asking them. The last question, I just received a direct message here. The question is this: we saw a lot of interesting economic outcomes for businesses that chose to implement a circular economy. What is it, in your opinion, the main reason why a lot of them are resisting this shift?
I think because it requires a key organizational change, right? So it's a great question. Say, okay, it shows that circular economy can be good for the people and the planet, and some brands are profiting from it too. So why doesn't everyone do it? Because it requires a massive organizational change. First and foremost, in terms of culture, because I mean, to get things right, you need to experiment, make mistakes, give people responsibilities that they are willing to accept. You need to be able to forgive people and learn from wrong experiments, etc., etc. And in some companies, I mean, we work with many fashion companies, and companies that can be quite top down, can be quite old. There's no space for experimentation apart from the design phase, design and thinking, and only the creatives can think. So it's mostly culture for me, and risk averse.
Great. Thank you so much. I think that's all the questions that have been asked so far. Everyone says thank you to both Niccolò and Giuseppe for your time. And thank you all for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed today's talk and found it super interesting. And, you know, if you did, let us know. We'll let you know that in a couple of weeks, you can actually catch our first 2 episodes of the new ECONYL brand podcast, where we're going to talk about these topics in much deeper with the experts in the field. So keep your eyes peeled for our next newsletter, where we'll let you know when and where you can listen to them. Once again, thank you so much for your time and participation. We look forward to seeing you in our future webinars. Take care. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.